Okay. Hi, everyone. It's so nice to have you all back. Some of you are definitely back for many times together with us. Somebody are like new. So for those who are new, welcome. We so got used to having you every day, so that we'll definitely miss you when these BAFF talks are over. So anyway, welcome to the last day of the BAFF talk series. Today is last, but definitely not the least day. And today we'll also have two presentations. And the first one, like right now, will be by Rūta Labalaukytė, who is Lithuanian alumna of the Baltic American Freedom Foundation Professional Internship Program. And Rūta will tell her story. She will share her impressions, her experience, her tips, maybe whatever she would like to share today with you. So just a few reminders. So throughout all the call, as always, you will be muted just to make sure that the sound quality is really good for all. And as always, you're more than welcome to put your questions into the chat box throughout Rūta's presentation, and after, when she will have some time to answer your questions. And when Rūta's presentation will be over, you are more than welcome to have your cameras on so that Rūta can see your faces. Now, not to waste any more time, I would like to give the screen to Rūta. So Rūta, screen is yours.
Thank you, Ingrida. I will try to share my screen and the presentation. That I have prepared for you. I just wonder if there's a way to. Can everyone see my screen and my presentation?
Yeah, but we see your PowerPoint. Can you do it a slideshow?
Can you see it?
Now it's okay. Yeah.
Oh, perfect. Great. Amazing. So hi, everyone. I'm Rūta. I'm from Lithuania, and I am still BAFF alumni. I was a participant of BAFF Professional Internship Program in 2014-2015. You can see a small bubble with some photos of my hometown. So I'm not from Vilnius originally. I'm from Marijampolė, quite a small town in the south of Lithuania, kind of on the border with Poland, where we speak with a funny southern accent. So if you can imagine Southern Americans, so Lithuanian southern accent would be something similar to that. And Ingrida asked me to share some, my career things that I did in life and how did I arrive to BAFF professional internship program and what did I there. So when I was at school, I was actually quite active, more active with other maybe stuff than school stuff. I was quite good at everything what's, considered with the sciences and, lessons and homeworks and all of that. It was, I'd say, more of a natural thing rather than I needed to put more effort. And if I would look back, I would definitely play more on the effort side and invest more in my sort of educational part rather than all the other activities that I did. It's not written out here, but I was a number of NGOs. I was active, and I'm still a scout, not that active, but I was a very active scout. I was a member of number of regional youth organizations. I was representing my NGOs in the national level. I was also doing art school, so I finished at art school and I spent 6 years there. And then I went to study, which was actually not really a thing that I wanted to do, but in Lithuania there's kind of strict community rule that you have to go to university and then you have to do your master's after your bachelor's and follow that path. So it's, from my family, it was not really a choice not to do anything or take a gap year that maybe now people are more flexible with that. So I went to Vilnius Gediminas Technical University. I really wanted to study there's now a program with, I think, media, but it was not sort of present at that time. So I did business management and administration just because it involved marketing, which seemed to be extremely interesting for me and from all the things that I did before. And I started in 2008, so it was sort of the middle of the financial crisis. And I was always extremely scared that I will have no skills whatsoever to kind of get any job or go to the job market. So at the same time, I was still actually working. I was doing a number of different things. I was still a scout and actively doing scouting things. And then around 2009, 2010, I started to volunteer at National Youth Council. And our goal at the time was to create a fund that would fund NGOs. Because when the financial crisis started in Lithuania in 2008, they cut budgets in extreme manners, and the budgets for NGOs, which are funded from the government in many cases, was cut by 50%. So the situation was quite terrible. So we decided as young people that we should create a fund. Not that there are any legal manners at that time, where there were no legal manners to create any funds whatsoever for NGOs in Lithuania. So that all started just kind of kicking off some initiatives. At some point, National Youth Council had that initiative to create a fund. So we just rolled on, and actually I think in 2012, the law for endowment funds was passed in Lithuania. So how BAFF works, it's in a very similar way. You put some money in, and then you sort of live from the investments and interest. So I did that for a while, and to get the money to the fund, because no one was giving the money, we created a company, and that was a European Youth Card. So we took over the product from the travel agency and just started to develop it in Lithuania. And in 2010, I actually brought the contract from Danske Bank, because we had a cooperation, European Youth Card had a cooperation with Danske Bank, and we brought it from Danske Bank to Swedbank. So I signed a contract at that time with the largest youth program in the banking sector, that was Zoom. And that was quite an interesting project. It was 2 years. It was my very first experience of actually touching a business and working with a business. And it was extremely interesting. 2 years of negotiations when you are 19, 20-ish with a major bank, it's quite exciting. You have to learn a lot of things by doing and, really learn those things and try to get all that knowledge. So what I did at that time, I really tried to somehow gain that knowledge from the people around that would be willing to consult me as, a youngster. You can imagine yourselves as, being 11th grade. So, that's not very different how people see when you are 20 and when you are, at the 11th grade. Yeah, you have some education, but you are still not, something at their level, especially when they work at the banks, and those are super corporate organizations. And that was great experience. And around that time, was I think 2 years from signing the contract, I did quite a lot of things. I never went to Erasmus because I had just so much of other international experiences, camps, and all the other things. I had quite a good position at that time. I was director of the program. I was responsible for myself, but I never went anywhere outside of Lithuania, sort of to study or to work. And BAFF just seemed to be such a great program. And I actually learned about BAFF when it somehow folded into my email just to spread the knowledge about the program. And I thought, maybe I should participate myself. And I enrolled into the program and got selected. And that was one of the greatest things that happened for me at that time. And in 2014, I finished my master's, and straight after my master's, I went to Boston to do my internship in the field of marketing. I always wanted to be in the field of marketing. I just never sort of get there to the end. So my first company was Montague Folding Bikes in Boston, quite a small company, but they are doing kind of real size folding bikes. So it seemed pretty interesting opportunity. I did a lot of social media for them, helped them establish some of their social media channels and do all those things. And then a couple of months into my internship, I met the team of NOBULL project. And the NOBULL project was formed by two executives from Reebok. One of them was a previous creative director of Reebok Global Operations. So a man, he really knows his job. He designed, everything at that time that was in Reebok. And the other man, I think he was strategy operations director in the vice president position at Reebok. And they both left, and they decided to create some of their companies. And NOBULL project just happened to be one. And at NOBULL project, their idea was to create footwear for CrossFit, which, it was quite, CrossFit as a concept, as a sport was quite new in 2014. In the Baltics, it was not present almost at all. I think the first CrossFit box in the Nordics opened in 2015 in Vilnius. And it was quite interesting because when I started with them, it was operation of maybe 4 or 5 people. And though the guys worked for a really major corporation, they had never imagined how the real world operations works. Like, how do you get the shoes from China to US to the consumer? And I was this resource for them that, you know, could just think, how do you get the shoes from China to US? So that's what I did. I actually helped them to set their warehouse and their operations, and we worked a lot together, and it was very hands-on experience because I was in the middle of the business, and that's what I really wanted with my BAFF internship, to just touch a business, not be that intern that, you know, goes to the office, does some document, does some tasks that are prescribed to do, but, you know, really touch something and be a part of a growing enterprise. I think when I left NOBULL project, we had maybe some 1,000 followers on Instagram. It was all online. There were no physical stores we would ship our shoes. I just checked, I think they have almost 200,000 followers on Instagram. It's just quite amazing operation that they have built right now. They have physical stores and they have a proper large office in Boston, and really impressive. We grew out. There were some really interesting things that happened for us when we were just launching the NOBULL project. Like the first shipment of shoes that we got, all the shoes pairs were mixed. Majority of the shoes were faulty, so, you know, the sole might fall out, or, you know, just the strings, you know, the shoe strings that should be in the box, you know, the right color were the wrong color. The shoes were put in the boxes with the wrong sizes. It's just sort of a thing with China. If you are a small brand, you can get yourself in a massive factories, and, you know, our backpacks and shoes were made in the same factories where Chanel and Dior would make their stuff. But it doesn't mean that you will get the stuff in a very quality way. So when we had to ship our shoes and stuff for the consumers for the first time, before that, we really had to do a lot of sorting on stuff. And it looks funny right now when I look back, but it was really quite scary. And it gave me that sense of what it, you know, what it takes to build a global operation. Because you can do everything right, or you think that you did everything right. But the mistake that, you know, NOBULL did at that time, no one went to China to check before the shipment went out from there, and it takes, you know, a month to ship everything in a shipping container. So there were some quite interesting and funny experiences. They also took me to their global shows around the US. So I went to some of the events and, you know, helped them to really set up their booths and see how people, you know, behave and do, and how you count and do your marketing in a really quality way. And that was quite exciting. We did a lot of traveling. I'll show some photos. I even added some from our US traveling. Yeah, we did a lot of traveling. I traveled all around the East Coast and West Coast and Central US, so that was extremely exciting. And then when I came back from NOBULL project from US, I thought that, you know, I never worked for a government. So maybe it's my time to pay my due for the country of Lithuania. And I applied for Invest Lithuania, and they accepted me. And I'm not sure if anyone from not Lithuania knows what Invest Lithuania is. It's a government agency which would help global businesses to set up their operations in Lithuania. And I was admitted to work with the global companies. My fields were healthcare and technologies. Through 4 or 5 years in Invest Lithuania, I really worked with some of the major brands that you can think of. So technology apps that you are using every day, most probably I had a chance to talk to them and chat with them. They might not have put their operations in Lithuania, but our goal was, you know, to at least put Lithuania into their mind. And of some of the, you know, very exciting and large projects here in Lithuania that are expanding, I had the possibility to add my hand on. And Invest Lithuania is most probably one of the best, if not the best, government agency to work in Lithuania. It's nothing, you know, when you think of the government agencies and you think of some great people, you know, some not very modern offices and all of that, that's not the thing with Invest Lithuania. It's in our department, we had around 50 people. Everyone studied abroad. They did some crazy things in their lives. And they just came back to work for Lithuania. And our goal, you know, no one really is the expert of the field that they work in, but our goal would be to learn the things, because there is no other way to strive there. I was working with global business services. I think I forgot to mention that. So if the ones that are living in Vilnius and Kaunas, you might see those companies like Danske Bank, NASDAQ, Western Union, and similar ones that are hiring now, you know, really a lot of people here. And that was our goal when working at Invest Lithuania, to really bring some good quality jobs, very well paid jobs to Lithuania. That was, you know, and it's still the main driving force behind every person there in the organization. It's when, you know, from your personal benefit, you can touch upon, you know, massive global corporations, you know, to learn from them. You can meet their executives, you know, really the top of the top, Forbes 500, you know, name the company. There is a chance somehow to meet their CEO or CFO, or, you know, really the top people of the company, and, you know, talk to them about their operations, anything that interests you. So when we would be hiring people to Invest Lithuania, we would sort of tell them to make a list of the top companies that they would like to meet. And, you know, who knows, maybe you'll meet them. You know, if you strive, you know, you can. No one tells that you cannot write an email to them and invite them to Lithuania to do their things here. And when I was working at Invest Lithuania, I was working a lot with the healthcare strategy of the country. And what we noticed is that, you know, large healthcare, pharmaceutical, biotech companies would not invest in the country unless there are some startups that potentially they could sort of buy. And I met one of the partners of Grable Capital, also Rūta. She's Lithuanian but lives in Boston. I didn't meet her through my internship in Boston. Just ran into her for other reasons while I was at Invest Lithuania. And their idea was to build a fund, risk capital fund, investing in healthcare and complex technology startups in the Nordic Baltic region. They also have other regions. So there's Spain, Portugal, UK, and Ireland, and then there's Nordic Baltic region. So now I'm responsible for the Nordic and the Baltic region for Grable Capital. My work is to meet startups here around the Baltics and see what would be potential investment targets for us. Our goal with Grable Capital would be to invest locally, to keep the companies as long as we can here in the region, the startups, and help them expand globally. Our goal would be to exit with our investment in UK, US, you know, UK the nearest, US, maybe somewhere in Asia. So really help those companies grow, but keep them here, keep their headquarters here, so they would benefit the community of the Baltics and the Nordics. You can see where my heart is, but really would grow exponentially and would grow in those other markets, but all the benefits would be for this region. And I can tell you a bit more, I will, about the venture capital and startups around the Baltic sold environment. So these are some photos from my professional internship program. I think what helped me to really gain the most value out of it was that I did extremely a lot of other things during my internship. So I, for example, volunteered at TEDx Beacon Street, which is the largest TEDx event. It's not the real TED, but the one smaller ones that happen in the different regions and cities around the globe. And TEDx Beacon Street is the largest of them. And I have that Oscar that Leslie Epstein is holding it in his hands is actually a real Oscar. It was received for the Casablanca movie in, I think, 1920s or something. He's the grandchild of one of the writers of the screenplay. And I met some other incredible people there. So I volunteered at their speakers lounge. And, you know, if you ever volunteer at TEDx, just volunteer with the speakers, because then you can just meet all those people and, you know, ask their questions or just hang out and have fun with them. I was really in touch with the Lithuanian community in the all New England area. So Massachusetts, Vermont, New Hampshire, Connecticut, and there's quite a Lithuanian community and Lithuanian Scouts community there. And I was introduced to this man who had really the coolest card play that I ever saw. And for the Latvians and Estonians, it spells Lietuvis, which is, you know, the coolest of the cool. Of course, basketball game, because Jonas Valančiūnas was playing then for Toronto Raptors, and he would come to the city to play with the Boston Celtics. I visited all of the tallest buildings in New York. So actually, this guy next to me, he used to work for Skanska in Boston. He was also a part of the internship program that I was in. And at Skanska, they have office in the Chrysler building in New York. So we went up there because their office was in one of the top floors, and they gave us tickets to go to, Empire State Building. And they gave us free tickets to go to the top of the top, which is quite VIP, and you cannot really enter the other way. So there are some other benefits that you can sort of reap when you are in BAFF and just, you know, be nice and interact with other people. And we had, of course, Halloween. That's, you know, a must in Boston, and you cannot, you know, in US, and you cannot really escape that. And when I was in Boston, we had some free time due to some climate issues. So during the winter of 2015, January, March, it was extremely large snowstorms happening. And when we would wake up in the morning after one of them, it was like 2 meters of snow outside. So, you know, what you see was the view from our, you know, out just going outside. You couldn't really step from the stairs because it was all of the snow. All the cars were under the snow. It was just quite hectic. City was not working then, and everyone would work from home like we just did for, you know, a couple of months. Then it would be, you know, a couple of days you would need to work from home because a massive snowstorm would happen and there would be no other way to escape. And we, as I said, we really traveled extensively a lot. Every free day that we could cross, we would, you know, chat with other BAFFers that would be somewhere around the US, combine our efforts and go somewhere. And we went to quite a few national parks, which is a must to do in US. Then, you know, you think that there is New York and San Francisco and LA, and that's sort of about it. But then in the middle in those states, there are some, you know, extremely nice, tremendous views and the nature and the animals. And you can find everything from geysers to mountains to snowy top hills. It was quite interesting to travel there. And the nature, of course, is very different from the Baltics. And yeah, you can see our food shopping, how that would look for a couple of days, I would say, for some 6 people. S'mores, of course, it's a must in US. I really feel sorry that you couldn't travel, because most probably that would be some of the things that you would have tasted in US. And the view from the top of the rock in New York. How much time do we have? So yeah, that's my team at NOBULL project. It was really one of the coolest companies that I worked for, and we had a lot of fun with everyone there. It was very cool to meet both of the managers. So you can see the guy with the white shirt. He was the creative director for Reebok. So he would design shoes and would know how to do that. I would have never imagined that I would meet someone that did so much design work. Mike, the guy with the black shirt, he actually did a lot of design for us as well. He worked for a few companies and designed of some stuff that, you know, we are wearing right now too. And yeah, we have Marcus from the other end with a gray shirt. So he was the strategy director for Reebok and would, you know, think of marketing and stuff behind the company. And though I was, you know, an intern in the company, I would really get my touch on everything and could hear and add my opinion to our marketing strategy, to the shoes, to, you know, what insoles do we do. I suggested that maybe we could do a lion for one of them, and we did a lion for the insole, and it was pretty cool. And those old stellages that you see behind, that was something that I had to order because people just didn't know how the warehouses work and where do you put a container of shoes and backpacks that would arrive one day. So yeah, that was pretty cool. And although Ingrid told me not to do too many, number slides for you, I thought that maybe I would share a bit of what the venture capital is, because there is really a lot of companies in the Baltics too that are funded by the venture capital. And if you ever have a great business idea, like I don't feel that I'm very good with the business ideas or the execution, but I'm pretty good at helping the businesses. And that was attracted to me to Rūta Capital to really help the business here in the region grow, expand them globally, hire a lot of people here, and we would have tremendously great economies because we are very innovative, super clever people doing, really amazing world and, renowned and known things. So venture capital is a risk capital. It's sort of an alternative source of capital. So it's not a bank loan. Venture capital would get the money from private individuals or family office or other companies, and then they would invest that capital to startups, help startups grow. And when they sell the startup together with the founders, they get that money back and, give the money back to the people that they took it from. So it's quite a process to understand there, but for startups, it's really great. It's, you get the money. But the other thing is that in many cases, you also need the knowledge. So what is called the smart money. Because if you need money, pretty honest, there is plenty of money in the Baltics too, and you can get financing from one or the other source. It's COVID, it's no COVID, you will get the money. There is no worries in that. But when you need to grow, you also need that knowledge that you just might not have. Would you be in United States or would you be in Baltics? They still need some particular things. Maybe you need to expand your operations and you don't know how to do logistics. Maybe you have a cool product, but no one knows about it. So you need great communication strategy. What do you do when you are in the Baltics, but you want to grow in US? Are you going to move there? It's, it looks, cool, you move there, but it's really a very extensive thing because you have to move your operations. There's time difference. It's very complicated to run those operations. So then you can, you get some money, but you also get a good partner that would help you to grow your business together with you. And this is a key thing with venture capital, and what I would advise if you ever go for investments, make sure it's not only the money that you are going for, because that's totally different game, rather than you have a partner that's also helping to grow your business. And venture capital would usually invest in quite risky operations. So when you are not profitable, you cannot get a bank loan or those things, but they also would help you to expand your business because it's in their best interest to pay back to their partners that they sort of got the money from. And just to show you how the Baltic market looks. So above the orange line, those are all funds that are Baltic ones and are operating in pan-Baltic way. So accelerators would be, the earliest stage. The business angels, like individuals that would fund, your family and friends included, would be the first level. Then you could go to accelerators that would help you to sort of build your idea, prove it in some small market. Then you would have sort of seed and early stage venture capital funds that would help you to sort of fund through that first stage of growth. And when you have your product that fits some certain market, like you have a shoe for CrossFit and you know that CrossFitters will buy it, you go for that Series A, Series B financing. So, that's usually from some 3 to 10 million in the Baltics that, you are looking for. And this is where Rūta saw a gap, because there were really no one in that sort of later stage. And then what do you do? You got some seed or early stage financing, but you cannot really get this financing in your backyard. And that's, not very pleasant for the companies that are here. So we would come in that later stage where companies are more going to the international markets and help them there. And there are some other funds that are more into buying really quite stable companies, or the ones that, I'm thinking of good example. Some, Coffee-in, for example. It's in all of the 3 countries. It was started back in 2012. There were not too many funds then. So BALTCAP actually invested into caffeine. They grew it extensively, and just now they sold it to the other fund. So at that growth stage would be something like, those private equity funds that would come in. And all these funds, the ones above the line, they combined manage about almost 3 billion euros in the Baltics. So that's quite an amount for the Baltics. It's pretty good. And they have some, it's called dry powder, so free money that they could invest in companies around. And if you look, actually, Baltics are leading in Central Eastern Europe. Thank you, Estonia. You really did a great job. There are a lot of companies and a lot of money going around there. It's impressive what Estonia has built. It's more compared, not in amounts, but in the ecosystem that they have, to United States and Silicon Valley than to anything else. I'm really very impressed with what's happening there. It's a very mature and advanced market, and Lithuania and Latvia is really trying to follow the footsteps of Estonia and get to that level. And really, Estonia is leading in Central Eastern Europe, and is in the Baltics. Is of course would be the prime player. But then you see yourself how all of it looks. So it's really Baltics have some power there, and it's really great to create companies in your age here, and you can start doing that as soon as you enter university, or even at your school. It's really no worries to try out different things. If talking about the unicorns, companies that were valued at $1 billion, so of course Estonia is doing a great job. Lithuania is more conservative, I'd say, in that sense. We more like traditional businesses, but startup market is also growing, and we got our first unicorn. That's really great. Latvia has to really step up. So Latvians, you have to do your part there. I really think that in Latvia, especially SonarWorks, might have some, really great power in there, and might come out very nicely, some others. And, to show you how startups are born. So there are some things that you need to grow great companies. So you need great research base, like universities. And I would advise you to go to university, in the Baltics or somewhere else, and, really do your best, get enrolled in all the different academic, environments, student clubs, and all of that. And, be visible and get yourself involved with some company. You don't need to create it. Maybe you can just add your part to it, because maybe you are very good in communications or finance or IT, and can help to bring that company up. Because usually if you are a part of the startup in the early days, you get some part of the shares, and when the company becomes a unicorn, a 1 billion worth of company, you get that part of yours too. And when it gets sold, you get some money and capital. That's very simplified, but it might be very beneficial in the future. There are some, of course, venture capital funds that would fund the companies. Government is doing their part, so they're creating different organizations to support businesses, to ease their way, to also finance them in different ways. So there's extensive government support to all of the 3 Baltic states, especially for small and medium enterprises and startups that are coming out. You might think that through COVID is a bit different, but really, if the companies want, they will get their support and help. And there are some events that actually where I would go to look for the companies would be events and academic institutions. So I would ask universities if they have something, some student working on some cool stuff. And then at the events, it's really the best way to meet the companies. And I think for you, my advice would be to enroll as a volunteer or as part-time organizer in some way to one of those events. It's really a great way to meet people, to meet companies, and when you are a volunteer, and I did that a lot, you also get to listen to speeches for free. So you just get, you pay with your time, but you really might have some very good knowledge out there. And so events is quite good. And also a lot of foreign investors, like foreign from not the Baltics, would come to those events. especially Nordic, Western European funds, some of US funds, they really keep their eye on what's happening here. I'd say because of Estonian success and the Lithuanian unicorn, because there are some very interesting companies that are happening, and you understand that you want to be early in that game, to have your stake in it, help those companies grow, because they have knowledge, they have power, they will do it, you know, like Bolt and everyone else. So I added a slide, you know, about what it means, the quality of investment. As I said before, my advice number one would be to look for the knowledge and the partner, not really the money, because the money you will get when you will go out to the market to search the money. If you will, you know, at some point in your life, there will be money, but you have to really find a partner that you can work with. Would that be a bank? Would that be, you know, a venture capital fund that would, you know, help you out, won't leave you high and dry when you're, you know, you have some issues or some problems. And there are issues in businesses. There are issues all the time. Would that be COVID? Would that be someone leaving your company? Would that be some, I don't know, your communications failing? Would there be a new competitor? It's something that sort of drives you to be the best, to, you know, really step up your game. If you just, there was on Netflix a show about Michael Jordan. I'm, you know, not sure if you had a chance to look at it, but if you do, you know, please do let The Last Dance. So you'll see there are always challenges, and you really have to step up your game and play it. So you know, when you always have challenges, you need to have a good partner to not to leave you, but really go with you through that. And some of my personal tips. So, you know, what really helped me in life is to work hard. My work journey is not very straight. I never did, you know, the same thing that I did before. Venture capital is very different from the work in the government. Yeah, it's investment, but it's two different worlds. So when I enter a new space and I want to, you know, I want to be successful there, I really put my best to become one. And working hard is the main thing. Would you be studying? Would you be at school? Would you be doing anything else? You know, you really have to deliver the result for yourself, just, you know, to feel good, and for others too. Do what you really like to do and what you believe in. This one takes the most courage. It really takes, you know, it requires some balls for girls too. I mean, you need to have your courage, and you need to know that, you know, this is what you want to do, you have to do it. And you can do it. It's just will be really hard, especially if people, you know, are not entirely believing you. When, you know, you are doing a deal at 19 with one of the largest banks in the Baltics, there are no many people that believe you. But if, you know, if you trust that can work, it will work. If it won't work, then you will have a great experience. And when I was at school and when I was in uni, I told you my main worry, it was that, you know, I will finish a university and I'll have no job because I'll have no work experience. And internships at 2009 were not internships at 2020. It was very different. You know, people wouldn't care too much about all the interns. So I knew I had to get my experience somehow, somewhere. So my investment in myself was really to participate in different programs, different events, volunteer, you know, just do things where I can learn from others, where I can gain that knowledge, to somehow push myself through. All the jobs except in West Lithuania I got because someone knew me, someone knew what I could do, and people hire me. And, you know, I usually don't do one job at a time. It happens that there are some other proposals, and then you will be just more competitive, more wanted in the job market. And it will really help you to understand, you know, what you really want to do in life, especially if you start these things early. Social skills are important as hard skills. I learned it the hard way, but, you know, if you haven't read, you should read the book, How to Find Friends and Influence People. it will benefit you, believe me, in your life. Be open-minded to cultures and peoples and beliefs and experiences. I think US taught me that. It's, you know, you land and it's totally different play game there. It's when you are from Marijampolė, you know, life is very simple and everything is sort of the same. People are the same. There is no much of, you know, diversity in there. When you land, you know, in different markets, it's very different, and it helps you, you know, to go through life. You don't really have to always impose your opinion. Sometimes it's very good to hear what others think to be able to influence their thoughts. Sometimes, you know, when you are going through life and, you know, maybe there are some challenges and some things that are not happening. I don't know, maybe there's not enough finance. Maybe there, you know, you didn't, you know, you prepared for some exam really well and it didn't go through, you know, as well as you expected, or something else happens. Really look at a bigger picture. You don't need, you know, to just downplay yourself, really play up yourself, and, you know, try to think, you know, in a positive way, and do, you know, feel positive about yourself, and think of a bigger picture and where it leads you rather than other things. Surround yourself with great organizations and great people, BAFF and other, you know, alumni organizations, different events, anywhere where you can gain, you know, great knowledge and have a good network. That will benefit you too in life. Because when you go to US and you don't have a place to live, sometimes you get to call up some Lithuanian scouts in US and maybe they will help you out. And have different interests. Because there you can meet other people, but you will also in life will need to put your mind somewhere else. It's a bit different when you are, you know, at school, but it's very important when you are in the more stressful environment of work. So I think that's it from my side.
Thank you very much, Rūta. It was really very interesting and inspiring. And I would like to remind our participants that you have an opportunity to put your questions into the chat box. And now, Rūta, if you could please just stop sharing your screen and we'll get back our participants back on screen. Yeah, and if participants would like to turn your cameras on, you're more than welcome to do that. And now we'll go to the section of questions and answers. And we have already a few questions here. So Rūta, what have been your biggest mistake? If you solved that, then how?
Good question. Taking too much stuff on and having too much things on my plate and not being to say no really put me into some very challenging situations myself. So I'm trying to learn that, to, you know, think that I have, you know, 8 hours a day. I'm used to work a bit more than from 8 to 5. My, you know, now I work with you as my colleagues are in Boston. It's different time zones. My boyfriend would laugh that I work in 2 shifts and I work more in the second shift. So, you know, from 4 to some 7, 8, this, you know, might be my usual day. I don't feel bad about it until I understand that, you know, I work from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. So that's something that I would say is still for me on a learning path. I've done a lot of other different mistakes. I forgot a massive invoice somehow to pay in my email, you know, it almost ended in a lawsuit. And that was, you know, because I had a lot of stuff to run through and that was in my spam. The company didn't call up and, you know, how do you do that? But yeah, you solve those things, you know, open-minded, structured way, keeping you calm and just going through it. And, you know, hopefully you learn from others' mistakes, not your own.
What? Yeah, have you finished with that question? Okay, so we have another question. What volunteer opportunities or programs would you recommend?
Yeah, so I personally did a lot of things with Lithuanian scouting because I'm a scout and, you know, that opportunity sort of open to you. You can, you know, work at different events and camps and do programs and all of that. from more professional way, I'd say look at different events. There are some quite a lot of international events around Baltics, especially now happening. I myself was also a volunteer at the Eurobasket 2011, I think it was happening in Lithuania, and I was managing the volunteer training, for example, and met great basketball players of Lithuania. But yeah, as I mentioned, events is a really good way, like TEDx is, all the professional ones, if they're looking for volunteers, just do it. If you, can't enroll to BAFF volunteer program, I think that's also a very useful thing, because BAFF is also doing different things and you can see those events and things to do there. There are some NGOs which are always looking for volunteers, like Food Bank. In Lithuania, we have this youth line. It's a psychological support group, to help elderly people and other. You can really look into those. It seems it's maybe not connected to the professional world just yet, but you will get a very good network there too. And it personally, those benefited me a lot.
Okay, another question. What are your tips to create a great network?
Be active in different associations and organizations. Like at school, I'm pretty sure there's some school union or some school thing that you can be a part of, and usually those are great people that go and participate in those. Rotaract, I think it's also actually around the Baltics. So Rotaract, Lions Club, you can check those out. Some of them are for a bit older people with more professional experience, but they have also some youth programs there, so it's also quite good. When you go to university, of course, all the student programs like BAFF Leadership Academy are really great. Just be open, don't be afraid to interact with people. If you find you see someone with interests similar to yours and you think that he or she would be a great person for you to talk to, reach out to people, just build it on. And you have to keep your network alive. So chat with those people, meet up from time to time, I don't know, share different book tips and learning experiences, and don't keep that network hanging. Scouts, and when we talked about volunteer opportunities, that's also part of a great network, and it will help you out.
Mm-hmm. And I will ask another question from Rūta, and while I'm asking, you are more than welcome to put your questions into the chat box. I'm just reminding you. But I would like to ask you how BAFF helped you to build on your network. So your experience with BAFF.
Yeah. So BAFF, I didn't mention that, but for me it was the one of the biggest network builders. So for me, BAFF helped with one of the major things when I came to work for Invest Lithuania, and after BAFF, my experiences were so different. So I didn't think that it will be very useful. Apart that, I very quickly understand how that international experience and understanding of US and some little cultural things and just knowing concepts would help me out. Like, what is red eye? Red eye is a flight at night through United States. It's called red eye. If you don't know what red eye is, then you sort of miss a part of the conversation. So I didn't think that these things would help me out. And in West Lithuania, I understand very quickly that that was my competitive advantage. At BAFF, as I said, I did a lot of things, and we would try to reap of those additional benefits. We went to celebrate Thanksgiving to Washington, D.C., and my friend invited me to her roommate's university, Georgetown University, Thanksgiving dinner, which was, sort of free of charge to enter. And we had a photo with the president of the university who thought that we were students. This is not something that maybe BAFF, would like to hear, most probably. But, we had great time there, and got introduced to many good people. And I understood how all the networking works in the US actually understood that. And when I started to work for Invest Lithuania, that really helped me out, especially during the first trips to US, because I understood, how to crash networking parties, because that's something that people do. No one goes to the, entirely invited. It's something in the Baltics that we would never think of, but that's just how it works. And then the other thing, when I came back from US and especially worked for Invest Lithuania, all the BAFF experience, knowing the cities, how it works really helped me a lot. And now in my work, I know how US works. I know how startup works. I have my network that helped me tremendously to be valuable for Grey Bella Capital. In the Baltics, during my internship, I was quite active. I kept connection with my, and the generations that came before me and after me, because you sort of get to meet those people. And if I need anything, I just reach out to the BAFF network. We needed a PR specialist for Estonia. Last week, I called up some Estonians and someone referred me to someone and we got the PR specialist. I'm not really sure if that answers the network, but the BAFF, it's, now something that I rely upon. I am now a part of BAFF Alumni Council, and we hope to build really active and beneficial BAFF alumni network for everyone around the Baltics, for all the BAFFians that are there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Rūta, you are doing so much things, and you were doing and you are still doing. So what is your greatest motivation or other inspiration for doing all that? Massive activities.
One thing, I think the time is something you can play with. So, you can really play with your time and put things so that you could be able to do more things. I think people sometimes think that they have to work, from 9 to 5 and that's it. And the other thing, I just, when I do something, I really go either all in or no, I don't do that. And my motivation since I was in my hometown with my scouts was that no one knew Marijampolė. So we wanted to bring Marijampolė to the vision of the scouts, that they would see the city. When I started to work with the National Youth Council, it was to help the country to develop youth policies. And the development of the Baltics is something that is driving me a lot right now. I went from, Lithuania to the bigger picture. And I really see that our countries we have extremely talented people. We have really great infrastructure. We have great support. No matter what people would think of their governments, people in US think their government is not very good. People here think their government is not very good. If you would ask someone in France, they would also think their government is not very good. But I think we are doing really great job. And I always think if you can create your business, you should, because businesses are paying taxes and businesses are the ones behind the real development of the countries. And I think if you can do your part, you must do your part for the country. This is just something I believe in. Mm. The country development is something very deep inside. We are the ones that will build it. No one will build it for us. And especially the young people are the ones that have to do it. The ones that really gain that international experience somewhere through some ways and can bring those innovations to our countries. If I can, just 1 minute, I don't want to sound, extremely boring. But if you look, for example, at Singapore, which was a village in 1950s, and now it's one of the greatest economical centers in the world, they have very Milesian approach to how, it should be built. Like if you go to study abroad, you must come back. And if it was sponsored by the government, you must come back to the country and do good for it. They ask people to study PhDs. And if you look at their, prime ministers and people in the government, they really gain the experience at the best of the best universities and build that out. If you look at Israel, they did a lot to bring best talents, best minds, best knowledge back to the country to build it out. And I believe that Baltics have way better stepping point than those countries had years ago.
Mm. Yeah, that's really a very good insight. And just to wrap up our today's presentation, our today's discussion, can you share what is your biggest dream or plan, professional dream?
I hope Bella won't be listening to this, but I would like that, big part of our portfolio would be the Baltic one.
Mm.
We have, Nordic Baltic ones. I have my preference there. I really think that these, we have a big potential there to hit it up. And I would hope that I will do a good job and we'll have a lot of great Baltic companies that will fund and help them grow exponentially.
Yeah, thank you so much, Rūta. And now it's our tradition throughout all these BAFF Talk series. Guys, would you like to put your cameras on so that we can have the photo? Yeah, and Rūta finally can see the faces who were listening to her.
Yeah. Hi, everyone.
Okay, so we are seeing you all. So one shot and okay, and another. We have 2 pages of participants, and I will take another shot. Yeah. Okay, so thank you very much for joining us this morning, and we will see you back at 12:30. So you'll have half an hour's break, and that will be our last session with Nina Karafin. So from Lithuania, we will move to Estonia, and that will be our wrap-up session. So thank you very much, Rūta, and thank you, everybody. And we'll see you very soon.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye.
Thank you, Yuda. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.